Hey Datsun fans, this is Dan, and I'm working on my 280Z. So what I'm doing today is installing a silicone valve cover gasket. This is a different valve cover that I have on here. I have my other one freshly powder coated right there. And I got tired of putting Felpros on or whatever brand that's cork. After a couple times of pulling the cover off to either check stuff or paint like I just did for powder coat, it would stick and rip, and then I'd have to go buy another one. So I'm like, going back to my Turbo Mustang days, I had a silicone set on there and they just lasted forever. So I went on the internets and found a company called Alexander Racing Enterprises, aka Gasket Innovations. Did a little bit of research, found a couple racers that use it with really good success, and I actually talked to them about these valve cover gaskets, and they politely gave me some really good responses, and we just kept chatting. So he says, hey Dan, I'll tell you what, I'll send you two, play with them, let me know how you like them. And I actually got them to give us a 10% off coupon code. And he even set up a Instagram page. They never had one. So I'm like, that's super cool. So basically, first time around, I tried it out and I actually screwed it up where you can see the gasket here. I just pulled it off, but basically you RTV it on and you only set it to like 2 or 3 foot-pounds of torque. Well, I got my trusty and husky torque wrench out, and the lowest it goes was 5. So I'm like, 5 should be fine. Well, I didn't hear an audible click. So I probably went to 7 or 8 or 10, who knows. It pushed it out right here, but I kind of set it back after I loosened up the nuts. I have studs on that motor. It's a studly car, so it deserves that. So the only thing I noticed was a slight push here. I set it back, torqued it up, or snugged it up, I should say, and I still had a tiny, tiny leak. Well, I drove it 100 miles yesterday. Car did fine, but I decided, okay, let's redo it. Took this off, and you could kind of lift it right there. Everything else stuck, but I'm going to redo it. So basically, cleaned it up, made sure there's no RTV chunks in there or paper. Carefully used the brake parts cleaner on that surface. Made sure I didn't hit the powder coat just to not mar it up or dull it up. And I got my second one here. So flat side, let me just focus in on that. Flat side goes on the valve cover. The rounded side goes on the head. But keep in mind, for these motors, it'll only go on one way. And yes, they do offer one, not just for the 6, but also 2 for the L4. There's a race model and the standard one. So we are going to RTV this once again, set that in place, and let it sit for a little while. And then I'm probably going to pop it on the motor just to kind of put a little bit of pressure on it before I tighten them down. See ya. And there we go. Just threw on the copper RTV. You can use pretty much any decent high temp RTV that you want. I did have a set of bolts here ready to kind of pop in place as I was doing the placement of the gasket, and just to make sure that it doesn't slide off. Kind of can be a little weird. You might want to have a friend help you if you wish. So there, we're going to let this sit for a little bit, and then I'll check on it and see if I want to drop it on the motor itself. Like I said, I have studs on there, which makes it nice and simple to take off the valve cover. But I figure it may be a great way to also hold this in place. All right, we're back. Removed all the bolts. Kind of made sure everything's clean. No excessive RTV falling into the, cover here. Wiped up whatever I could, as I was pressing down here and there just to make sure Stuff was nice. And on the car, cleaned up the oil that was kind of dripping down, although that oil's gonna keep it from sticking as well, but I don't think it'll be a problem either way. But I like to kind of ensure it's clean. And I got this cooling mod from Godzilla Raceworks zip tied that way, so that when I go to do this, it's not in the way, screwing up my gasket. You want to make sure, you know, even this like little temperature wire is not going to snag. So let's do this. All right, and there we go. So I carefully threw it on the studs that I have. I personally think that would make it so much easier if you didn't fully let it sit for, you know, whatever the RTV calls for, 24 hours, etc. I got about an hour in, figured it was skimmed over, tacked pretty well, slide it right over the studs. And if you do have studs, you might have to raise up the actual stud just a hair because these are a little thicker than normal. But I just snug them up. If that's even 1 foot-pound right now, I'd be shocked. Just to let it sit for the next day, and then I'll really give it another pound or 2. And that is it. So hopefully we're all good. But remember, these are Alexander Racing Enterprise gaskets. I'll throw the link and the coupon code, which is valid till the end of the year. This is 2022, by the way. Gasket Innovations, check them out online or on Instagram, Facebook, etc. And happy Datsuning. See ya.